In a world dulled by comfort and distracted by noise, there once walked a man whose heart burned so fiercely for God that even his ribs broke to make room for the fire. Philip Neri. Not a king, not a warrior, not a prophet calling down thunder, but a man of quiet humor, gentle presence, and overwhelming love for the souls of men. He did not lead by commanding crowds, but by kneeling beside them in the silence of the confessional, in the simplicity of joy, and in the power of unshakable holiness. While the church groaned beneath the weight of corruption and the people cried out for renewal, Philip did not rise with fists clenched. He bent his knees and offered his life as a furnace of reparation. "We are not saved by revolutions," he would say, "but by saints." He believed it, and he lived it. Every smile he gave, every tear he wiped, every penitent he embraced, every soul he listened to in the early morning hours was a step toward the renewal of the world. And so, quietly, joyfully, relentlessly, Philip rebuilt the church from the inside out. Not with stones and mortar, but with love. This was the man who laughed with children, played jokes on cardinals, and wept in the presence of Christ. A man who, behind his easy humor, bore a heart so wounded with love that it could barely be contained by flesh and bone. And when God could not bear to hide his fire any longer, he reached down and touched that heart, and it broke. Two ribs cracked and lifted, making space for the sacred flame. Philip lived not for himself, but for the souls of others. He was a friend of sinners, a companion of the weary, a light in Rome's darkest alleys, and a mirror of the divine mercy. They called him the Apostle of Rome. But Rome did not know what to do with him, that he was unpredictable, a saint who laughed too loud, danced with children in the street, and asked cardinals to wear silly hats so they would not think too highly of themselves. His joy was scandalous, uncontainable, and suspicious to the rigid minds of his time. But for Philip, joy was not entertainment. It was holiness. It was the fruit of a soul anchored in the truth of God's mercy. People came to him in secret. Nobles, prostitutes, scholars, beggars, confessors, all found in him a mirror of their truest self, not through judgment, but through love. He knew what no doctrine could teach, what no law could enforce, that the human heart is drawn not by shame, but by compassion, that repentance grows not from fear, but from encountering a gaze that says, "You are still loved. You are still called. You are still worth saving." He spent entire days, entire nights in the confessional, sometimes 12, 14 hours. He was never too tired, never too busy, because every soul, no matter how broken, how bruised, how far gone, was worth more than time itself. And in those hushed conversations behind the screen, as sinners wept and stumbled through their stories, Philip was not merely listening. He was bleeding. He was holding them. He was offering every tear, every confession to the burning heart of Christ that pulsed within his own chest. His room was bare. A cot, a crucifix, a worn-out book. He did not need more. He had already found heaven, not in wealth, not in comfort, but in the souls redeemed one by one through love. And yet, this was not the sum of his fire. Because for Philip, holiness was never about withdrawal. It was not about robes and incense alone. It was about stepping into the chaos of the world with the fragrance of God's joy. And so he would sing. He would dance. He would interrupt solemn processions with laughter. He would whisper to a young man on the edge of despair, "Be good, if you can." And even when they mocked him, even when they called him mad, his eyes never lost their shine. Because he knew that the madness of love was the only thing that could save the world. He had no ambition. He refused promotion. When offered the cardinal's hat, he smiled and said, "I prefer paradise." When powerful men tried to build him up, he stepped down. When fame knocked, he locked the door. And yet, without trying, he became more powerful than emperors. Because true power does not come from position. It comes from the heart that burns. One night, as he prayed in silence, a great light filled his room. The Spirit of God rushed upon him, and his body trembled under the weight of divine intimacy. From that moment forward, His life was no longer his own. He lived like a man consumed. His chest swelled, his ribs cracked, not in agony, but in awe. God had made his dwelling there. And Philip, simple, humble, joyful Philip, bore it with trembling gratitude that he was not perfect. He did not pretend to be. He struggled. He suffered. He felt unworthy. But his secret was this: he gave everything to God, even his weakness, especially his weakness, because he believed that God could do more with one humble heart than with 1,000 proud victories. And in that surrender, heaven found its vessel that he changed Rome, not through force, not through sermons, but through witness. He walked through the streets as if heaven walked with him. He spoke with strangers as if Christ stood beside them. And slowly, brick by brick, he rebuilt the soul of a city that had forgotten how to love. His life was a revolution, not of noise, but of fire. And this is the invitation now, not to imitate his actions, but to burn with the same flame, not to replicate his works, but to receive the same spirit. Because holiness is not a relic of the past. It is not reserved for a few. It is not bound by time or title. It is the destiny of every soul willing to say yes to love. You, who listen now, are called to the same fire. You, with your wounds, your doubts, your failures, are not disqualified. You are precisely the one God is reaching for. You are not asked to become someone else, but to become fully yourself in the light of Christ. To become, like Philip, a soul that laughs in storms, that forgives the unforgivable, that rejoices when others despair, that loves when love seems lost. This world does not need more anger. It does not need more division. It does not need louder voices or greater noise. It needs saints. Saints who smile. Saints who heal. Saints who listen. Saints who walk into darkness and light a candle. Saints who love with such simplicity that even the hardest hearts begin to melt. Saints like Philip Neri. And what does it truly mean, to burn like that? It does not mean to live without pain. It does not mean to walk without burden. To burn with love is to become a beacon in a world drowning in its own darkness. It is to wake up each day, not for yourself, but for others. It is to see every stranger as your brother, every enemy as your mission, every moment as a sacred chance to bring God closer to the human heart. To burn like that is to walk into the room and carry heaven on your breath. Not through sermons, not through argument, but through presence, through the silence of someone who listens, through the gaze of someone who sees, through the smile of someone who refuses to give up on the goodness in others. Philip was not great because he tried to be. He was great because he allowed himself to be small. He was holy because he was honest, because he never pretended to be more than a beggar of grace, a man who knew his poverty, and in that very poverty found the limitless mercy of God. And now you who live in this fast world, where everything is measured, priced, and filtered, you are being asked to be poor again, to be free, to live without masks, to love without fear, to choose holiness not as a performance, but as a surrender, to say, "Here I am, Lord. I don't have much, but take what I am and use me." You see, saints are not museum pieces. They are not glass-covered icons to be admired from a distance. Saints are the most fully alive human beings to ever walk this earth. They're what we were meant to be. And when you forget your calling, when the world tries to tame your soul, when your faith feels faint and your hope grows dim, remember this: the fire still burns. The same spirit that broke Philip's ribs with love is not confined to history. It is here, now, waiting, longing to fall on someone who will dare to say yes. Not a polite yes, not a cautious yes, but a yes that says, "I will live for you. I will die to myself. I will love when it hurts. I will give when it costs. I will believe even when I can't see. I will follow you wherever you lead." And if you let that yes rise in your chest, if you speak it with trembling lips and open hands, then brace yourself. Because everything will change. You will begin to see what others miss. You will notice beauty in the cracks of the world. You will hear heaven in the laughter of children. You will weep at the mercy given to you in every breath. You will begin to ache, not for power, not for pleasure, but for souls. For those who are lost, for those who have forgotten who they are. You will be consumed with a hunger not for success, but for holiness. And it will cost you. Oh, yes, it will cost you everything. But you will never regret a single step, because this is what you were made for. Not a safe life, not a normal life, but a life that leaves behind a trail of light wherever it goes. A life that burns so brightly that others are set aflame just by being near you. This world is desperate for people like that. For men and women who still believe that Christ is worth everything. For souls who choose joy in a culture of cynicism. For hearts that choose forgiveness when vengeance would be easier. For eyes that look at the broken and say, "You still matter. You're still loved. Come home." The world will not understand you. It didn't understand Philip. It called him eccentric. It laughed at his simplicity, but it could not ignore him. Because when heaven lives inside a human being, the world is forced to take notice. You may never be famous. Your name may never be carved into marble or written in history books. But if your love is real, if your fire is true, if your life is given without holding back, then you will change eternity. Because every soul you touch will carry a spark. Every heart you love will echo in heaven. And one day, when all things are revealed, you will see what your yes meant. You will see the chain reaction of grace that began the moment you stopped living for yourself. And you will fall on your knees and whisper, "It was worth it." Every tear, every sacrifice, every lonely moment, every choice to forgive, every risk to love. It was worth it. And you will look into the eyes of the one you followed, the one who held Philip, who holds you now, and you will know this is what it means to be alive. And when you rise from your knees, filled with that unshakable peace, you will no longer fear anything the world can throw at you. Because now you know you've tasted eternity. You've walked with the one who made the stars, and yet stoops low enough to whisper into your soul. From that moment on, your life becomes a quiet revolution. Not the kind that storms palaces or takes over media, but the kind that transforms the invisible battlefield of the human heart. You will walk into your office, your classroom, your kitchen, and without saying a word, demons will tremble. Because they recognize that light now lives in you, and wherever that light goes, darkness cannot remain. You may still struggle, you may still fall, but now you fall forward. You fall into grace, and every wound you carry becomes a place where someone else can be healed. Your scars, once symbols of failure, now shine as proof that God writes resurrection stories with broken ink.d. Oh, you see it. This is the gospel not as theory, but as fire. This is not about being perfect, it's about being consumed, about being utterly possessed by love so fierce, so holy, that everything false is burned away. Not all at once, no, but day by day, moment by moment, until the voice of the world grows dim and the voice of God becomes thunder in your chest. This is what happened to Philip Neri. That he wasn't rich. He wasn't a scholar. He wasn't born into greatness. But he gave God a wholehearted yes. And God took that yes and lit a fire that still burns centuries later. Do you think God cannot do the same with you? Oh, he can. He is waiting. And the only thing standing between you and a life that changes history is the courage to surrender, the courage to say, "Let it be done to me according to your word." But let me warn you, this will not make your life easier. It will make it truer. It will make it weightier. You will feel things more deeply. You will carry burdens that no one else sees. You will love people who may never love you back. And yet, you will be filled. You will live full. Because the Spirit of God will make his home inside you. And once he moves in, nothing stays the same. You will start praying at strange hours. You'll feel the urge to intercede for someone you barely know. You'll wake up in tears for the lost. You'll be pulled into acts of kindness that make no sense on paper. And still, you will not burn out, because this fire is not from you. It is the same flame that burned in the bush before Moses. It is the same light that led Israel through the desert. It is the same Spirit that rolled the stone away. It is unstoppable. And when that fire truly takes hold of you, you won't want anything else. The world could offer you applause, luxury, fame, and your soul would whisper, "Keep it. I have found the pearl of great price." You will know a freedom the world can't fabricate. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to do what is right. The freedom to say yes to God, even when it costs you comfort, even when it costs you your life. And one day, your yes may carry you into danger, into mockery, into exile, even into martyrdom. But do not be afraid, because every drop of blood spilled for Christ waters the soil of eternity. Every sacrifice becomes a seed. Every yes becomes a spark, and the world will never be the same. This is your invitation, not to religion, not to rules, but to fire.to, the holy madness of saints, to the sacred joy of those who have nothing, but possess everything, to the reckless surrender that turns fishermen into apostles, murderers into missionaries, cowards into martyrs, and nobodies into history-shakers. What are you waiting for? There's a world out there, aching, groaning, starving for truth. There are hearts breaking quietly behind smiling masks. There are children who have never been told they are loved. There are souls teetering on the edge of despair. And you have the light they're looking for, but it won't happen by accident. You must choose. You must step out of the shadows of safety and into the wild light of obedience. You must renounce comfort as your king and let Christ reign in its place. You must be willing to lose your life in order to find it.so. Do it. Start today. In the quiet of your heart, let your soul catch fire again. Whisper that dangerous prayer. Lord, make me holy. Whatever it takes. Take everything. Just give me you. And then watch. Watch what he does. Watch who he brings. Watch how he turns your daily life into sacred ground. Because when heaven sees one soul fully surrendered, all of history bends to that flame. And when you do, when you let the surrender go deep enough to shake the very bones of your existence, you'll realize something that changes everything. This fire is not meant to stay with you. It was never meant to be hoarded, hidden, tamed. It was meant to spread, to leap from soul to soul like wildfire across dry grass. You are not saved to be safe. You were set ablaze to ignite others. Every time you forgive when it hurts, every time you speak truth when it's easier to be silent, every time you love the unlovable, sparks fly. Chains crack, heaven rejoices. This is the revolution of saints. They did not conquer with armies, with swords, or with wealth. They conquered with tears, with prayers, with relentless, burning love. They walked into plague zones, into prisons, into courts of tyrants, not with fear in their eyes, but fire in their hearts. Because they had already died to themselves. And when a person is no longer afraid of death, they become unstoppable. That can be you. Yes, you. You who thinks your past disqualifies you. You who believes you're too weak, too ordinary, too sinful. You who have been lied to by a world that profits off your despair. But listen, the blood of Jesus is not a bandage. It is a resurrection. It doesn't just cover the mess, it makes dead things live. It turns your story, no matter how broken, into a testimony that silences hell. The very thing you think disqualifies you, that's what God will use. Your pain will become compassion. Your failures will become wisdom. Your weakness will become the very channel through which His power flows. You will walk into rooms and atmospheres will shift, not because you're special, but because He is, and He lives in you. People will ask, "What happened to you?" They'll say, "You've changed," and you'll smile, not with pride, but with wonder, because you'll know the truth. You didn't fix yourself. You were found. You were forgiven. You were embraced by a love too fierce to leave you in darkness, and now you are light.so. Shine. Shine when no one claps. Shine when you're misunderstood. Shine in silence, in suffering, in small moments that no one sees. Because heaven sees, God sees, and eternity is built on those unseen choices. The enemy will try to distract you. He'll whisper that you're not doing enough, that it doesn't matter, that no one cares. But he is terrified because he knows what happens when a soul stays faithful, when a heart keeps burning, when a voice keeps singing praises even in the prison cell. Chains fall, doors open, lives change. Let the fire make you dangerous to darkness. Let it burn so brightly that every room you enter feels different, not because of your personality, but because of his presence. Because Jesus walks with you now. And when Jesus shows up, everything must bow. Fear bows, shame bows, every name, every power, every darkness bows to the King who lives inside you. This is your inheritance, not just survival, but victory. Not just peace, but power. Not just hope for heaven someday, but the authority to bring heaven here, today, now. In your words, your work, your worship, you are not called to blend in. You are called to stand out. Not with arrogance, not with noise, but with a quiet fire that never goes out. A love that cannot be explained. A joy that makes no sense. A faith that moves mountains, even when your hands are trembling. Oh, you feel it. The stirring deep within. That's not emotion. That's the call of destiny. That's the sound of chains breaking, of graves shaking, of the Lion of Judah roaring inside your chest. He is not far. He is near, and he is not done. There's more love to give, more people to reach, more fire to spread. You're not too late. You're not too old, too broken, too tired. You are right on time. And the kingdom needs you to rise, child of God. Not with swagger, but with sacred strength. Not with performance, but with purity. Not to be seen, but to serve. Rise with the humility of Christ, who knelt to wash feet. Rise with the boldness of Paul, who preached from prison. Rise with the wonder of Mary, who carried the impossible in her womb. Rise and burn, because there are generations waiting. There are prayers unanswered until you say yes. There are miracles stored in heaven, waiting to be released through your obedience. The time is now. The harvest is ready. The workers are few, but you are here, and your yes still matters. Then go, not with haste, but with holy resolve. Go, knowing this road will not always be smooth, and the cost will sometimes feel unbearable. Go, even when the applause fades and the crowds disappear, for your mission was never to impress, but to impact, to love until it hurts, and then love even more. There will be moments when you'll wonder if you're making a difference, when your prayers feel like whispers lost in the wind, when your light feels too small against the weight of this world's darkness. But remember, even a single flame defeats the night. You are not walking alone. The same Spirit who raised Christ from the dead is alive in you. He strengthens your hands when they tremble. He gives words when you fall silent. He carries you when you can't carry yourself. Every act of obedience becomes a seed planted in eternity. That conversation you have with the lonely soul. That kindness you show to the one the world rejects. That meal you give, that child you comfort, that truth you stand for. None of it is forgotten. Heaven records what earth ignores. And one day, when this life gives way to glory, you'll see just how far your fire reached, that you'll see the ripple effects of your yes. The countless lives touched by your quiet faithfulness. The soul set free not because you were perfect, but because you were willing. And you'll hear it. That voice you've longed your whole life to hear. Well done, good and faithful servant. Not because you were the strongest, but because you never stopped burning. You never stopped loving. You never stopped believing that even in your weakness, God could shine through to let this be your legacy. Not a life of comfort, but of courage. Not one of applause, but of authenticity. A life consumed by the fire of the gospel. A life that points not to you, but to the one who made you, saved you, and now sends you. The world doesn't need another celebrity. It needs saints. It needs servants. It needs burning hearts that cannot be bought, silenced, or extinguished. Hearts like yours that, let the fire fall. Let cleanse what needs to die. Let it ignite what's waiting to live. Let it spread until every corner of your life is ablaze with holy purpose. Until the love of Jesus becomes not just what you speak, but who you are, And may the light you carry never flicker, never fade, but burn brighter with every step you take, until the very end, until the last breath, until heaven is home. Amen.